So I continue to be animated by this battle over mass immigration. And it's not just a question of immigration in itself. It's when you bring in millions of people to your own country and you naturalize them and make them citizens, they soon get a right to vote. And you can see that in Canada, not quite the same extent in the U.S., I don't think. I think we're more hurtling down that road. But check out these scenes in Washington, D.C., where Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, was addressing Congress. By the way, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris boycotted the event. They claim they had other engagements. Absolutely astonishing. But look at the mad crowds on the streets, the absolute craziness. Some of them are woke, hardcore left-wing Americans, but a lot of these folks are newcomers. When you bring mass migration into a country, you change the electorate. Take a look at what was going on outside while Netanyahu was giving a speech inside. As we now know, Iran is financing a lot of these actions within the United States. Some crazy, super gross things. They dumped crickets and worms and bugs in the Watergate Hotel where Netanyahu was staying. Take a look at this. Super gross. Well, the grossness is inside the house. Here's Rashida Tlaib holding up a little sign that says war criminal. Really, when you have mass migration of people from anti-Semitic countries, Islamist countries, whether it's Ilhan Omar or others, it will start to animate the political party inside. Take a look at her. Kamala Harris is going to be the candidate, as you know, for the Democrats running in the next campaign. And as you know, she received no primary votes. She dropped out of the primary. She won no delegates. She was polling at like 1%, and she was appointed expressly by Joe Biden as a DEI running mate, a diversity candidate, because she was a woman of color. That was her sole credential. She had no popular support. She was actually deeply unpopular within the Democratic Party for a number of reasons. I don't know if you recall, but she was actually just torn to ribbons by Tulsi Gabbard in one of the primary debates. Remember this?
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. That would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place. That impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
She's incredibly unlikable, Kamala Harris, especially that cackling laugh. I don't know if you remember, but a couple of years ago, we found a great impersonator, an impressionist named Esti Paltiel, who did a bunch of videos for us, who just nailed that cackle. Remember this? Well, who's laughing now? Well, she is, unfortunately. And one of the things I saw about who would be Kamala Harris's running mate was a discussion of the possibility of, I think he's the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, who obviously, if you're from Pennsylvania, you're going to You're probably going to win the state of Pennsylvania, which is one of those battleground states. Really, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio. If you win those states, you've won the election, because most of the rest of the country is so Republican or so Democrat, it's not going to change. I saw this incredible comment by Democratic activists that Josh Shapiro is a non-starter because he's a Jew. Now, there's been a Jew, an old Democratic senator named Lieberman actually ran on the Democratic ticket a few years back. It's not controversial to have Jews in public life, especially in big cities. Jewish mayors are very common, the occasional Jewish governor. But imagine so much anti-Semitism within the Democratic Party that even the fact that a candidate is Jewish would disqualify him. I'm a little bit worried about Kamala Harris. If you would have asked me about that a year ago, I would have said she's incredibly unlikable. She is terrible at communicating. She is terrible to her own staff and has a very high turnover. But I don't think any of that is relevant, because if you remember in the last election, Joe Biden essentially campaigned from a bunker. He didn't have big rallies. He didn't leave the house. He claimed it was because of COVID. We now know it was probably because of his cognitive decline. Don't think they won't do the same exact thing with Kamala Harris. Keep her in a box. Have scripted, pre-recorded messages. Nothing off the cuff. Only interviews with very friendly media. They're going to keep her under control the same way that they did with Joe Biden, and they'll just rely on the media repeaters to promote her, and I think it's already working. A week ago, when Donald Trump survived the assassination attempt, it was an exhilarating moment, especially that ultra-patriotic image of him with his fist up under the flag. That was an incredible moment. Momentum shifted, and so did the polls. That is gone. I think the energy has shifted back from the Republicans to the Democrats who were despondent over the obvious decline of Joe Biden are now exhilarated that he's gone. They don't like Kamala Harris, but they know that they won't have the same problems they would have had with Biden. And I think it's going to be a brutal battle, and I think the entire world turns on it. So there's a lot cooking. There's a lot going on. And we'll do our best to cover it. I want to